Hello and welcome to the Justice Conference Asia 2015. So excited to have Erwin McManus here with us. He's a pastor, he's an author, and definitely just an inspiration. You were just talking about beauty and justice. Tell us, what do beauty and justice have in common?
Well, if justice is restoring the world to God's original intention, everything God creates is beautiful. And when you look at creation, you see the natural beauty in waterfalls and oceans and sunrises and sunsets. And yet we have to admit that there's an incredible amount of loss of beauty in humanity: poverty, violence, homelessness, abandonment. And when we look at those aspects of the human story, we realize that we're not living the beautiful life that God created us to live. So for me, justice and beauty are inseparable, because justice restores the beauty that God intended for us.
And there's a lot of people here, you know, from different NGOs, and they're working hard to try to make a difference in the world. What would you want your message to them be?
Well, I don't know if I have a message for them, probably because they're the most motivated people in the world. But I guess what I would say is what you're doing is a beautiful thing, and it's supposed to be hard, because the human story wars against God's intention. And so they're doing something that doesn't come easy, and they may feel overwhelmed, but remember that what they're doing really matters.
And you talked about also how a lot of times we actually live inhumane lives, or lives that seem inhuman, and oftentimes we don't even notice it or don't even realize it. And could you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, I think we do notice that we live inhumane lives. I think that we just consider it as a part of being human. In fact, we use that phrase, well, I'm just human. But we use the phrase, I'm just human, whenever we're living beneath our humanity. We don't really say, I'm just human, when we're loving deeply. We don't say, I'm just human, when we have expressed kindness and compassion. We don't say, I'm just human, when we've been incredibly generous or sacrificial. We say, I'm just human, whenever we've fallen short of what even our conscience tells us is the person we're supposed to be. We don't think about sharks living in humane lives, or unshark-like lives, or tigers living beneath their tiger, spirit, and beavers. We kind of figure out beavers live beaver lives, but humans can actually live non-human lives. They can live inhumane lives, and somehow we know that lives of violence, lives driven by greed, lives that consume, lives that use power to overpower the powerless, those are inhumane lives, because we intrinsically know that is beneath our humanity.
And it seemed like, I mean, there's definitely a tendency perhaps to focus on problems, to focus on issues, and especially at a place like the Justice Conference, we're always focusing on issues and concerns. But it felt to me like your message today was trying to cast sort of a new vision.
Yeah, my natural instinct isn't to focus on problems. I think we mistake the identification of problems as genius, and I think identifying a problem is just 10% of the story. The real genius comes when you begin to creatively discover solutions that can overwhelm those problems with something more extraordinary. So yeah, instead of talking about the problems, which I felt like people already knew, I wanted to talk about the larger narrative of what we're called to, that we're actually called to do something extraordinary, something glorious, something beautiful in life.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for taking the time, and thanks so much for coming to Hong Kong for the Justice Conference Asia.
Hey, thank you so much. God bless.